Cyberwar Neon City is an early access bullet hell roguelike that appears to be an attempt to provide something new and unique, but the gameplay itself feels far too linear and forced when it comes to choosing your chosen style of gameplay, and while I really like it, I just have too many concerns with it. Here you will control a clone created by a tech company to aid humanity in its fight against the deadly cyber monkeys who have taken over Earth. With the help of a cybernetic living shark weapon, you will challenge your way through the same levels and stages over and over again until you fail, after which you will be recloned with whatever resources you have gathered during your current run. When you have one weapon that is significantly more powerful than all of the other weapons, such as a sniper or a wave gun, the others become less desirable to use unless you want to intentionally make things more difficult for yourself. There doesn't appear to be a strong underlying drive to expand on your builds or to try all of them out. All of the upgrades are a hassle to deal with until you acquire the Safe Frog, as opposed to other games where you go out and farm for materials before being able to purchase improvements gradually over time. This is due to the fact that you cannot hoard your resources after every subsequent run. Cyberwave does it in such a way that if you did manage to get a few points off for that upgrade, you are currently going to be out of luck and you must discard everything you have currently stockpiled to begin a new run if you cannot afford things. It's not very thrilling, and it feels like a waste of your time and effort as you get farther into the game, because it's inconvenient to have to work so hard for so few features. While it is interesting to have bosses that apply different elements to their gameplay, and to have player characters themselves change based on what boss they're facing, it just feels like another layer of restriction that removes different player options when you're forced to play in a very linear manner. Like the second boss, for example, removing your special abilities and powers while the game itself turns into a classic side-scrolling shoot-'em-up. The concept is really great, but the execution could be a lot better. It has a great vibe, music, and style, but in terms of gameplay, it just seems to continuously disappoint. It captures that cyberpunk vibe well with the visual style of many of these clubs, be that the hologram strippers, the posters, and the AI dystopian society in which they dwell in, but you can't help think that there's something missing. Nothing really feels out of place with the exception of the shark weapons, which appear immediately after your failed attempt to kill the monkey leader as a human, and is the major element that defines how you play each run, as well as what upgrades you receive. You get to choose from 4 variants of the same weapon, which all have their special abilities, and then a randomly generated bonus out of what seems to be currently a handful of effects. It just feels so bland and restrictive, and when compared to the weapon that you get in the tutorial as a human, it just feels like a massive downgrade. You'll either have a very easy run or a very difficult run, and it doesn't feel fun to play through for a variety of different reasons. The main reason being that it's so randomized in a bad way that you'll want to play one build over all of the others. But the problem here is that you can't because the effects and specials aren't matching the gun in question. So let's consider a run where you're using the Wave Shark and its damaging effect. If you wind up with its additional damage upgrades and firing rate, you're pretty much set for the rest of the game because everything will be obliterated without the need of your specials, ultimates, and dashes, and so on, especially when you're fighting against most bosses. And then on the other hand, let's suppose you use the Grenade Shark. It's much slower, it's more inaccurate, and it does not deal much damage. The inability to switch between multiple weapons or just having more interesting weapons that actually have an impact with the playstyles as well as the requirement to adapt to one in particular makes it so boring to play through. This whole weapon system feels so out of place and pointless. What really piqued my interest here was restarting the game a few times and going through the tutorial and having so much fun with the gun that you receive here in an attempt to kill the boss before you ever die because genuinely, the tutorial section was among the best part of this whole experience. Cyberwar Neon City is currently in early access, and I believe that much more work needs to be done to make it feel like you're getting anything out of your time spent playing it. It clearly has potential, and while the gameplay isn't really fun to play for more than a few runs, the atmosphere they've created is rather captivating, even if it is extremely linear. All it really boils down to is a desire for more variety when it comes to weapons that do not feel weak and dull in the same rooms versus the same enemies and bosses. Tailoring the scraps and adding in some variety would also be good, but because it aims to be a roguelite, there isn't much replayability here after a few attempts because nothing genuinely will ever change. Maybe in a year it might be better off, but right now there are just too many better options and cheaper options in this overly saturated genre to recommend.